Heyo, and welcome back to Shovel Knight, Shovel of Hope. In this part we are going through the Iron Whale stage, and as you can see right away this is a water level. But I will say, contrary to the conventions of a lot of water levels, this is actually legitimately fun. Like, they are just using the Mega Man water gimmicks really, so like the water enhances your jump rather than restricts it. So, like, yeah, it's less realistic than how water should theoretically work, but, you know, it's more fun than having, like, say, the Mega Man 1 thing, you know, when you're in them sections in Iceman's level and it's just, like, really awkward to jump through and it, like, sort of holds you down. And also, you can use your shovel underwater as well, so you're not completely vulnerable, like, say, the water levels in Mario. Because, like, that's the thing, that's one of the reasons why I think water levels have such a bad rap nowadays. It's just because so many people grew up playing, like, the Super Mario Bros. 1 like, water levels, which are kind of slow, I will say. Like, they're not unplayable bad, but, like, if you go back to Mario 1 and you're trying to swim underwater, like, unless you've managed to hold on to a fire flower, them levels are just dire. Like, they're not even hard, they're just, like, you know, you've got to slowly dodge things, and it's not all that fun, really, at least in my experience. I will say, though, I do like the underwater theme from Mario 1, like the music track, because it's maybe not for the right reasons, but it's one of the most memorable songs from Mario 1 for me, next to the ground theme, just because it's, like, such a pleasant song. In contrast to, you know, slowly crawling through the water, trying to avoid the bloopers and whatnot. But yeah, I know I'm making it sound like the Mario water levels are the worst things ever. They're not, they're just a bit dire. But yeah, like, this game's water level, and I gave a mention to the Mario music, so let's give a mention to this music. This is the other song on the Shovel Knight soundtrack that was composed by Manami Matsume. And I'll say, like, it's okay, it's fitting for the game's underwater level, you know, it's kind of chill, you know, you can sort of go through, it's inoffensive. It's not quite as amazing in my eyes as the Explodatorium theme, but then that's probably because the Explodatorium theme is, like, perfect. You know, like, that song is just so perfectly fitting for the Explodatorium as a level. So, like, a follow-up song that's meant to be like a slow underwater kind of jam, it's a bit of a disadvantage already. I will say, like, since I've last recorded commentary for this game, I've played a couple more stages after where we're at so far. Like, I've played through Mole Knight stage, and I've also played through Polar Knight stage. And I don't think I necessarily have a favourite song on the soundtrack just yet, other than maybe the title theme, which in itself is, like, really definitively great. I feel like if this was a game from back in the day, that would be, like, one of the most memorable video game songs ever, just because it's got such a distinct riff to it. But yeah, that's really good. I'm still kind of getting a feel for all the music. There is this section which I feel like this reminds me of something, and it's possibly the dragon boss from Mega Man 2 that I'm thinking of here, where you're being chased across small platforms by a guy, except in this case it's just a giant ugly fish monster thing with a treasure chest rather than like a massive dragon that you kind of look fabulous fighting because the bright pink armor is the most effective attack against him. But yeah, like, this level, most of the enemies you see in there are based on wildlife, or at least to a certain degree robotic wildlife, depending on which enemy it is. I think that's meant to be a real giant eel thing, but thankfully none of them are as disturbing or off-putting as some of the, like, say, Mario 64, like, water life. Because I will say, though, like, everyone does freak out about the eel in the sunken ship level, but honestly, the piano got me more than he ever did in Mario 64. Because, like, people expect there to be some uncouth wildlife underwater, Whereas no one expects the fucking piano to start trying to bite them. Like, I'm sorry, if you're comparing the two, then one is clearly far more terrifying than the other. But what we just got there from Chester when we rescued him just now, we got this weapon that is basically the stand-in for the axe throw from Castlevania. It has this very similar kind of arc to it, and you get similar kind of uses from it. So far in the levels I've recorded, I haven't got as much use from it as I do like with some of the other weapons in this game. Like, it's not helping me through the bosses as much as the Chaos Sphere is. But like, sometimes there are some spots that are basically just designed for it, where there's enemies in on a platform above you, and you can just throw your little anchor thing up in the air and knock them out. Like that guy was trying to do to me a minute ago when I was on the platform above him. And yes, during these sections here, you need to pay very close attention to where the falling anchor is, because that does go under the screen, and I'm pretty sure if you're still on it, then it counts as bottomless pit, so you die. So you want to keep a good watch on where it is and time your jumps to the best of your ability, because otherwise you will get fucked. And them things, they've got a bright green attack, but thankfully it's not as broken as our Chaos Sphere is, so like, just make sure you're getting plenty of use from the Phase Locket. The Phase Locket is a fantastic ability to have here. I don't know whether, I wouldn't say it's broken. It's not a broken power to have, because you do still need to be very cautious of your timing. And it's timed in a way that you can't just cheese past entire sections with it. You do have to keep an eye out. So it will help you past like an obstacle, but it won't help you past entire screens. You do still need to do some platforming for yourself. So it's not like bullshit broken. You're not gonna just like enable that power and win the game, like even if you've got a healthy supply of magic. But it is enough to like ease the tedium if there's a certain section you're struggling with. So for that, I can say I like it as an ability Shovel Knight can use. Yeah, I was just ramming my way into things repeatedly. I should probably look where I'm going, but I feel like I've kind of ended up taking for granted just how generous the life is in this game, and that kind of encourages me to be a little bit careless, because I was just sort of barging into him even though he was clearly in the way. But here is our boss for the Iron Whale stage. This is Treasure Knight. Treasure Knight's deal, I guess, is that he's kind of a greedy bastard. He seems to want to hoard loads of collectibles and treasures and whatnot for himself. And you have kind of got the whole idea going on of there's treasure stored in the underwater whale, even though in this case the whale is a robotic whale. And so that's just his little hideout for all the jewels and that. Kind of reminds me of, I want to say, Sonic Rush Adventure. I seem to recall there being like a stage where you run through a whale, like a robotic underwater whale. And given in that game you can also collect treasures, so it kind of had the same idea going on. But there is Treasure Knight down and beaten. But yeah, the Sonic Rush games are honestly pretty neat. Rush Adventure is a little bit heavier on the backtracking and grindy side, which puts it a little bit below the first Rush game from me. But it's still fun, and it's got some fun levels in its own right. And the third one was the DS version of Sonic Colors, because that, I didn't ever beat Colors DS. I have an actual legitimate DS copy of it that I keep meaning to get around to playing. But it's ended up becoming one of those one-day backlog kind of games. But anyway, back to Shovel Knight. As I promised in the last part, here is the second village area. And the second village area, it has some other bits and pieces here that you can unlock. Like this first guy we're talking to, he is the guy who offers you different colour armour. As you can see on the shelf in the background there, they have all different extra abilities that they grant Shovel Knight. And the one I'm going for will be the silver one. I've got to get myself some more money first. But the silver one, the reason why I want that is that grants you a power that if you land 2 consecutive downward shovel drops on top of an enemy or a breakable item or whatever, then you actually get a superpowered shovel attack that you can use for your next shovel swing. And that becomes quite useful in certain parts of the game because, like, not only for bosses because you're going to be getting a lot of shovel drops in anyway, but also just taking out the enemies that sort of sit in the way. You know, you can bounce on them a couple of times, and then once you've done that, you can finish them off with your biggest shovel swing. And I want to draw attention to this interaction between Shovel Knight and Toda here, because Toda is feeling a little bit under the weather. He's not feeling too good. But, you know, he's having a little chat with Shovel Knight there, and Shovel Knight is telling him some of the worst puns imaginable, and you get that disapproving head shake, which is amazing. I love it. Let's tell him another one, because with our joke about the operator being out to launch just isn't good enough for him. Well done, Shovel Knight. I feel like that's one that maybe some people might not necessarily get, but as someone who likes precious metals, as someone who wishes they were in a position to afford more gold, you know, like, I love that. What's going on in this room here is you have those 3 individuals on the left here who each just flat out begging us for 1,000 gold. You know, they want money, and we're muggins enough to give it to them. It seems redundant at this point. It seems like just you getting japes, no you kind of deal here. But there is actually a reason to do this, and I will come back to actually give them their money in later parts. And that is because once you give all 3 of them money, it actually unlocks a surprise boss. It's a pretty basic boss, but it's still kind of cool that it's there. And I won't spoil what that is, but we'll see it when we see it. I don't think I've shown it off in my recorded run yet, so I can't promise what part we'll see that in, but maybe when I get to Tinker Knight, because I think Tinker Knight's stage is a bit shorter, so it'll be kind of cool to have an extra boss in that part. But ladies and gentlemen, here is the second of the designer for a day characters that appears in Shovel Knight. This is Baz, and Baz was designed by Matt and Wooly of the Super Best Friends play. And I will say, like, I'm not too familiar with their videos, so like, this is a reference going over my head a little bit. But apparently he was inspired by a running joke that they have based around a cancelled Street Fighter character. Like, there was apparently a character called Zubaz who was going to make an appearance in an early Street Fighter game, and they got taken out as an unused design. And apparently Matt and Wooly have an ongoing joke about that, which, you know, I think, you know, given they're the ones who designed this character, they put the money down to be designer for a day. It's kind of neat to see this character in the game. And they've actually included him in a good handful of projects going by this list that I found, because apparently he's playable in a game called Dive Kick. He's obviously a mini-boss here in Shovel Knight. He's in Skullgirls as a palette swap for the character Beowulf. There was meant to be a character based on him in a game called Colossal Kaiju Combat before that got cancelled. He's in Indivisible, he's in Pocket Rumble, Parkour Karte, and he's also a rival driver in the game Slipstream, which is a game off this list that I have actually played, which is honestly pretty fun, and I may end up showing the GP modes off at some point on this channel. Possibly, because, you know, I do like Let's Playing me some racing games here and there. So we'll see. I don't want to make a solid promise, but we'll see. But yeah, before we wrap up this part, I'm gonna get the silver outfit as I've said I would. And so we can power up for when we go into the next stage. And Shovel Knight does look pretty cool in silver there. But folks, join me next time where we'll be going to the Lost City to fight Mole Knight. Bye bye for now.